Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Independent Election and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill 2022 be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, the object of this bill is a very short bill, is almost a 1-2 clause bill, Honorable Speaker. And the principal object of this bill is to amend the Iebc Act in the first schedule, which provides for membership of the selection panel for purposes of appointment of the chairperson or members of the Iebc Commission. Honorable Speaker, with the passage of the motion that we just passed on order number 33, members will know that if and when these documents are transmitted to His Excellency the President, the 4 commissioners now will stand suspended until the tribunal finishes its work. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, bearing in mind that the other 3 commissioners who preside over the commission, the chair and the 2 other commissioners, their term come to an end early January, then we would be in a very precarious situation without a commission or without commissioners, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there was a selection panel that was set up that comprised of 7 members. However, Honorable Speaker, this proposed amendment to the Act was necessitated by the declaration by our courts through the Constitutional Petition E364 of 2020 by Okia Omtata versus the Attorney General and 5 others on the unconstitutionality of some of the provisions of the current Act, Honorable Speaker. And the High Court held that this unconstitutionality was to the extent that the present nomination by the Parliamentary Service Commission of 4 out of 7 commissioners, members of the selection panel, the court was of the view that such dominance by the Parliamentary Service Commission failed to portray the selection panel as fair and independent. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what we have done in this amendment bill is to cure that issue that was raised by the High Court. And Honorable Speaker, clause 2 of the bill is proposing now, instead of 4 persons being nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission, we will now have 1 man and 1 woman being nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission to conform with the issue of gender parity. We will also have 1 person to be nominated by the Public Service Commission. 1 other person will be nominated by the Political Parties Liaison Committee. And Honorable Speaker, it's important to inform members of the country on the need to have a person nominated by the Political Parties Liaison Committee, Honorable Speaker. In the last Parliament, Honorable Speaker, when the selection panel was set up, it is only 2 political parties, ODM and Jubilee, 1 wing of Jubilee actually, that nominated the panel that moved on to nominate the 4 commissioners whose mandate you have made the decision that you have made on today. And it tells you how precarious the process of nomination of commissioners and the panel that will interview these commissioners is. Because we followed a process where only ODM and its leader and the then leader of the minority faction of Jubilee, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, it is only the 2 of them and the leadership of the House then that nominated members who would sit in the selections panel that led to the appointment as commissioners of the 4 commissioners that the petitioners had petitioned against. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what we have done, other than allowing the Parliamentary Service Commission now or a few political parties, it would have been very easy, Honorable Speaker, to get the Azimio leadership and or ODM and UDA or Azimio and Kenya Kwanza to nominate the people to sit in this panel. But we have now expanded this to a situation where all political parties that are registered and have a unit under the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties under the Liaison Committee to participate in the selection of the panelists or the members of the panel that will then select or interview commissioners for Iebc. And that is the reason why we are getting 1 person who will be nominated by the Political Parties Liaison Committee that sits in the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties to ensure that even non-parliamentary political parties, even parties that don't have even an MCA, but their political parties registered by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties then have a stake and a say as to who sits in this panel that will do the work, the important work then of identifying and interviewing the commissioners that will take over from the work of the current commission. Honorable Speaker, there is also one person nominated by the Law Society of Kenya and 2 persons who will be nominated by the Interreligious Council of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, with that, Honorable Speaker, these provisions now cure the unconstitutionality that was found to be in the bill as it existed or in the act by the High Court in the petition filed by Okia Omtata versus the Attorney General and 5 others. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg that members do support this amendment. It's a very short bill, but it will go a long way to helping the country to move forward to ensure that there is no vacuum in the office of Iebc Commission, and the country will be able then to move forward and have a panel that will then help the country to identify other commissioners to succeed the current commissioners. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request Wakili Mureu, a member of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, to second.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to support this motion, support this bill. And before I do that, allow me to take this opportunity to thank the members of Justice and Legal Committee for making sure that for the first time in history, this country, we have never ever had an opportunity to discipline our commissioners in our electoral system. In the past, the members of Iebc were removed from office through demonstrations. But today, this House has demonstrated that this country has come of age. We can be able to use our justice system. Everybody has been given an opportunity to ventilate their issues, and we have removed it. I want to recommend this House for the job well done. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the 4 patriotic Kenyans who took up Article 3 of the Constitution and decided to risk and defend the Constitution. Allow me to thank the Republican Party. Allow me to thank Dennis Duigan Thumbi. Allow me to thank Geoffrey Langat. Allow me to thank Steve Jerry. These are patriotic Kenyans. And I wish all Kenyans are the same, can take this opportunity whenever it arises to stand and defend the Constitution. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, today we are putting a foot down and say the time of impunity, lawlessness is over. And this is a country which is going to be ruled by the rule of law and not the rule of jungle. And on that point, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Wakili. You are actually debating the motion that we have just passed. Can you wind up your argument?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wish to take this opportunity to second this motion, this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order, honorable members, order. The distinguished Wakili is a first-timer, so he's on a learning curve. You should understand. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2022, be now read a second time. As usual, the screen is full. Since I sat here, I don't know if it is about this. I put the question. No, I call the mover to reply. Does anybody want to Johanna Ngeno?
Thank you, Speaker, sir. I think I don't want to belabor this particular issue, Mr. Speaker, because really, if fate will meet the commissioners who've just been done here with Mr. Speaker, this country will be having so many elections, we don't know. We might be having elections, and if we do not have the commissioners in place, there is no chair, and there is no quorum in the commission, Mr. Speaker, I think we're going to have a precursor. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that I support the fact that we need to pick the team that will be working on the panel, that will be looking into the nomination of those particular commissioners. Speaker, I wish to support, and I thank you.
Member for Iebc.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support. Honorable Speaker, I was looking at the initial appointment of the commissioners. And when you look at it, it was a collusion actually between the majority leader of the former parliament and the minority leader. And in their list, they ended up appointing members from one side of the coalition as members to the panel to appoint the commissioners. And I think that was very unfair. So the amendment actually has done a correction, which will now make it, and it should also become competitive, because our constitution requires that it has to be competitive. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the amendment.
Benja, is that Benja? Yes, Honorable Benjamin Lagat, I believe it's you. Yes, give him the mic. I'll give one more, then I call the mover to reply. Benjamin Lagat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to support the amendment because, Mr. Speaker, it is attempting to improve the process. Mr. Speaker, as has been said, the other parliament, the process was not followed properly, and this parliament was seeking to correct the mistake. Mr. Speaker, they say garbage in, garbage out, Mr. Speaker. We have seen what has happened when the process was not fair, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, since this process, since we are trying to improve the process, make it fair, get as many participants to the process, as possible, Mr. Speaker, I support, because we want an independent boundaries and electoral commission, Mr. Speaker, so that we see an election that is fair and that is acceptable to all Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I support, and I support strongly, Mr. Speaker.
Rindikiri. Rindikiri, yes?
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like to support.
Point of order? Who is calling out point of order? Is it Kikari again? No. Rindikiri, you have...
yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like to support this motion. It's very important to send a signal out there. We saw the selection panel of the 4 famous comedians. We expect that this panel will not be made of comedians, because the outcome will be...
Yes, the Honorable KJ of Dagoretti South. Give him the mic. There's one ahead of you.
Mr. Speaker, I need your guidance. I need to know if the honorable member is in order to refer to these very infamous Kenyans as comedians, knowing very well that comedy is actually a very respected enterprise and a very respected form of art, Mr. Speaker. I wish to hear some guidance from you, Mr. Speaker, as to whether this member is in order. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, I do believe that the Honorable Muridhania needed to say that these people are infamous, not famous, because they are not famous for anything, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, comedy is a very respectable enterprise. It is a respectable, talent-based hustle, and so it would be sacrilegious of the Member of Parliament to refer to the actions of people who are treasonable as comedians. Comedians are honorable, they are not treasonable.
Honorable KJ, comedians have many meanings. the respectable comedians who entertain everybody, and reckless behavior that turns into comedy. So Rindikiri is perfectly right in using that word in the manner he used.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for defending me. KJ forgot that I'm a student of literature. Mr. Speaker, we are running away from the preserve of the party leaders to form committees on selecting very serious officers or commissioners. Mr. Speaker, the last parliament which I had the privilege of being, we saw the attempt to break the constitution by the party leaders, forcing fellow members here to select people the way they want them to be selected. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in the history of this country, Parliament is taking its own responsibility to oversight, to legislate, and to oversight the functions of every office in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, what I was referring as the House of Comedy, Mr. Speaker, what we saw is people acting like comedians. They are not acting to be in a serious office. So I'm in order to refer to these as comedians. And therefore I support that we get a team of serious people from all political parties to select serious people who are not going to be a comedian at Iebc. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Kikari, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand on point of order number 95 to request you, the Speaker, to ask the mover to reply, because we are just on the same thing and doing the same things. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
In any case, Honorable Kikari, I had directed that I'll give 2 more. Then I call the mover to reply, and the 2 have already spoken in terms of Rindikiri and Johanna Ngeno. Mover, reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply and thank the many members who have contributed for appreciating the need to have a panel that is balanced, a panel that represents all shades of opinion, those who will be nominated by the Parliament Service Commission, the Public Service Commission. That's very important because they have the marking scheme on what a good public officer should be, and those that will represent political parties, all political parties, not a section of political parties, through the Political Parties Liaison Committee, our religious interest through the Religious Council, and also the legal fraternity through LSK. Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I'll now put the question, which is that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2022, be now read a second time. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, honorable members, the next order is a committee of the whole. So you will be upstanding.
1 minute. Not yet. Not yet. A bill for an act of parliament.
Honorable members, take your seats first for her to read out the bill. Sorry.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act and for connected purposes.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 35, Committee of the Whole House.
Now you can be upstanding, honorable members.